Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us for this special live session. I'm Itzik Amiel, and together with my friend Rabbi David Schwarz, we are excited to bring to you another inspiring standout episode. This is collaborative broadcast brought to you by ABA International Law Section and The Switch, and you're invited to join us because we are just live. Because in this series, David and I will interview an international legal leaders out of the amazing community of the ABA International Law Section members and share with you new insights, ideas, stories, and strategies to inspire you and help you grow your professional practice, your career, and we always add even your life. So you're invited to join us. So hi, David, and I'm happy to see you again. So
It's wonderful to see you. It was awesome to be in person last month, or I guess earlier this month. This was, I guess, the first day of May, but it was officially our April session, and it was great to see you in person. But as long as we can't see each other in person, this is a nice second best.
exactly, and the time passed very fast, as we all know. In fact, this is also a new opportunity to learn something valuable from you, David. And this time, David, I actually prepared for you a more personal question. So if you do not want to answer, you may avoid it. So it's your choice. But I wanted to share with us if you have any weakness or any physical challenge that you have that you never shared with nobody, maybe.
Well, I have a number of different challenges. First of all, my memory is terrible, and as I get older, it's getting worse. So that's definitely always been a challenge. And so, in particular, remembering people's names, I'm just terrible at it. I always check yearbooks and a variety of different books before I go to any conference. I check the leadership directory when I go to the International Law Conference, so that I try not to forget people's names, or at least have thought about them in the meantime, because it's very easy to forget people's names. But I think the toughest one, the one that I struggle with most, actually is just having a temper. You wouldn't necessarily know it, but it's something that I'm always working on. And it actually does, really occasionally hamper my ability. So, absolutely, I really feel for other people when I see them struggling with their own challenges, whether it's mental or physical, because I know what it's like to struggle with various challenges.
Thank you very much, David, for sharing with us. Actually, the first one I don't think is a big challenge. You have no memories. It's a good excuse for every time you forget to do something. So it's you can turn it to your advantage anyway. But thanks, David, and let's actually connect us perfectly to the episode of today, which titled "Beyond Boundaries: An International a Lawyer's Quest for Inclusive Justice." So you all could see it, of course, on the screen. And this is always, we know, challenging title to find the right title. But again, if you're joining us right now, we see you joining. Thank you very much for joining. You can put it in the chat. Let us know who you are, where you're dialing from, because we would like to know, our guests would like to know that we are not here alone in the room. And of course, if you have a question later on when we bring our guests, it's your time to ask your question, because we would love to bring your question to our guests even before the prepared question we had. But legal clients, typically come to attorneys, and I hope you all agree, during traumatic time in their life, filled with anxiety about unknowns that really could do significantly impact their future. And this reality creates an opportunity for lawyers, like all of us, who have faced their own challenges to connect more, if you want, deeply with clients. Because research shows that demonstrating genuine understanding and compassion helps create a safe place where clients feel more comfortable sharing their stories, their fears, their concerns. And lawyers who exhibit empathy typically build stronger client relationship, which leads, of course, to increased cooperation and better outcomes. What are your thoughts about it, David?
I think that you're absolutely right. One of the things that I noted, when we met the very first time, was the fact that being a rabbi and being able to be empathetic and concerned and understand the problems that people have makes one a better lawyer. And so that is certainly true when you can understand the difficulties that somebody's going through, because you can relate your own difficulties.
Great. And I want to pose some question to you guys who are listening to us right now. And are you hiding the most valuable part of your career? maybe your struggles, maybe your quirks, the thing you've been told to keep quiet. Those might be the exact reason clients trust you, why colleague remembers you, why your next big opportunity says yes. In law, we taught to polish, to perform and present, but what if your edge isn't is what you're perfected, it is what you overcome? If you've been waiting for permission to build a practice that feels real, guess what? This session, it is your permission to do so. And here are some questions we need to ask ourselves before inviting our guests to join us. What personal challenges could become my unique professional strength? Write it down for yourself. Here's another one. How am I bridging differences word in my legal practice? Next question. Where am I limiting myself in my professional journey? And how can my legal skills serve a greater purpose? Maybe the last one. What meaningful impact do I want to create beyond the courtroom victories, if you want? I want you to take a moment to reflect on these questions. And I dare to bet with you that our today guest journey might just reshape your answer to this question. And this is the reason why we have the honor to have this episode with Advocate Professor Barry Appleton, a remarkable individual who embodies the intersection of international law, cultural bridge building, and personal resilience. As you're going to see in this episode, Barry is a testament to how personal challenges can transform into professional strength. So before we invite Barry to join us, let me give you some highlights about Barry. And I do it very short because there's a lot to share about Barry, and you probably can read all online as well. But Barry Appleton is a co-director and senior fellow of the Center for International Law at New York Law School, as well as a distinguished adjunct professor at NYLS. He teaches international commercial arbitration, public international law topics, and international business transaction. Barry is an international lawyer specializing in international trade and investment law at Appleton and Associated International Lawyers LP, where he is himself the managing partner. He's also the author of several publications, I should say hundreds of publications, on international law and an editor-in-chief of the Investor State Report and Appleton International Investment Law and Arbitration News. He's ranked in the top tier of experienced global investment treaty arbitration lawyers, and he has acted as advisor to subnational governments on international economic legal policy, treaty negotiation, and on matters before the World Trade Organization, WTO, the North American Free Trade Agreement, the NAFTA, and other international economic law instruments. He has also served as a legal counsel in some of the most frequently cited international investment treaty arbitration decisions and as a counsel to dispute at the International Center for Settlement of Investment Dispute, or in short, ICSID, and under the United Nations Commission on International Trade Law arbitration rule. Barry is actively involved in a variety of arbitration related professional bodies. He serves as the co-chair of the American Bar Association International Arbitration Committee, the co-chair of the Investment Treaty Working Group for the ABA section on international law, International Arbitration Committee, and served for several years as the delegate for American Arbitration Association to negotiation of UNITRAL Working Group number 2, held at the United Nations General Assembly in New York and the UNITRAL headquarters in Vienna. He is also involved in a number of arts-based philanthropic initiatives focused on the promotion and protection of culture of indigenous people, as you're going to hear also today. Barry lives by a simple but powerful motto, and he's going to mention more than once in our session: do what you love and love what you do. So without further ado, we want to bring Barry on and welcome him to our
Well,
session.
Itzik, David, thank you so much for having me. I'm exhausted just listening to that introduction. Oh my goodness.
Exactly. We're all exhausted from listening to that introduction. I don't know how you get so much done in a single 24-hour day.
And by the way, Barry is not 80 years old, so don't worry. I mean, I know already a lot about it. This is a lot of people thinking, oh my God, how old the guy is. No, that's exactly the thing that you want to listen to us today to see what you achieve in very life that you have in front of you. But thank you very much, Barry. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining us for your valuable time. And I think we should dive right away to conversation. to start with what we call the passion path. David, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. So yes, so Barry, you mentioned, and fabulous to have you with us, Barry. Thank you so much for joining us. You mentioned, or Itzik mentioned, how much you appreciate and live by the motto of "Do what you love and love what you do." But what's interesting is that we learned that law wasn't necessarily where you were going to begin. That on some level you're really a diplomat by heart, and you're only a lawyer by choice. So tell us how your path began.
Well, David, that's interesting. I thought that I was going to be a diplomat. I went to school to study international relations, like all the people that want to go to the State Department or to the Canadian Foreign Office. I had the opportunity to go to either one, and I, I started working on it, and I loved the subject matter, but I realized foundationally that there's a difference. That lawyers have something that's a little different. That I realized that diplomats can do the walk, but lawyers create the outcomes. And that was something that was deeply meaningful to me. And I pivoted and changed. So I went from a graduate program doing international relations over to doing international law. And I didn't really look back from there. And that was a wonderful decision, but it wasn't easy. The easy path would have been just to enter into the class with my colleagues. They all had more seniority on me, and just do what I was trained to do. But it might not have been what I wanted to really do. It might have been the same sort of, I like ice cream, but a different flavor. So I had to find the right flavor. And I think I got it right.
Well, tell us just a little bit about, you mentioned that you could have gone into the State Department or the Foreign Office in Canada. Tell us about, your childhood. How did that end up? How did you get to being the person who wanted to be a diplomat?
Well, I grew up between the United States, where I was born, and Canada, where my family was from. And we have a history in my family of being back and forth across the border. I know that may seem a little unusual right this very moment, but traditionally, for the last 150 years, it's been a great tradition between Canada and the United States for people to be on both sides. And I came from a family that would be on both sides. And that diversity shaped my very early vision, because, they're two countries. They're not one. They're not quite the same. And I spent a lot of my time explaining Canadians to Americans on TV. And then I spent a lot of my time also explaining Americans to Canadians. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. It just is. Let's put it that way. But law allowed me to be able to act in that process. And what was really interesting was that I had the opportunity first to work in the constitutional negotiations. I was doing my graduate legal education at Cambridge, and Canada was having a major constitutional crisis. And they needed somebody in the constitutional talks for the province of Ontario that understood about international law, international powers and international economies, and constitutional issues. I could do both. So I moved from England. I was supposed to go to the International Court of Justice to do some work. I moved from there to Canada, worked on the constitutional negotiations, and then I became an advisor to the Ontario Cabinet Committee negotiating the North American Free Trade Agreement on NAFTA.
Wow.
Great. Thank you very much for sharing your beginning or inspiring story, Barry.
Who would have thought? It's just, I left the options open, and when there were doors, I was prepared to take a risk if it was interesting. And I did interesting things. I was very fortunate. I spent 3 years in public service. I suggest that everybody spends time in public service. And look how many doors it opened up for me.
And the thing actually is fascinating how your path really to international law was really shaped by this early vision of peaceful problem solving, if you want. But again, speaking on solving problem across culture, your work really extends, and we all know we prepare for it, far beyond traditional legal boundaries, and that brings us actually to a unique aspect of your journey. So to continue our conversation is one thing that many people, I'm not sure if they maybe your listener or those who know you do not know about you, is your involvement in Integrity Art Foundation. So how did you get involved, and how has your involvement really affected your life and maybe even your practice?
Well, when I was at university, I had friends that had a fabulous store, and the store had all types of different tribal types of things, and it had some Inuit things, and I was very drawn to it was what we might call more primitive in style in terms of the Western canon. I was very drawn to the authenticity of what was being expressed. And as I talked to these people, I got to learn a little bit more, and I would meet with some of the artists that would come to the store. And eventually, the very first thing I ever bought was a piece of Arctic art from an Inuit artist. Um, and she was a female artist. I had an interest in female artists and in indigenous artists, and this was a perfect merger of the two. Um, and then I got very involved with the Art Gallery of Ontario because of my interest in female artists. But my passion was about indigenous artists. And so, because of that, I had the opportunity to become the chair of the Inuit Art Foundation. And that brought me into contact with elders and communities from Greenland all the way to Alaska, north of the Arctic Circle. So I would go up, I would meet with the community elders, we would talk, and I learned so much because here art is an expression, but it's also a part of your survival. And in many ways, it's like law. It expressed traditional knowledge. It expressed traditions and beliefs. These are not recorded. They're just passed down by oral tradition. And many of the great traditions in the world are passed down by oral tradition and then have been recorded. Same thing's happening there. So art taught me something, that justice itself is a long and evolving story. It's justice itself isn't just a system, it's a story that began a long time before us. We're part of that journey. We're not the destination. We're just a stop along that way, and we should do what we can. And that's what I learned from my friends in the Arctic. So you wouldn't think that I would get my jurisprudence that way because there's no law school there, but it shaped my approach. And it's also shaped my approach to diversity, because you can learn so much more from people who have different viewpoints and different ways to offer. And so it was very meaningful.
And to complete it, I think you also got a name, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, some of the elders, some of the most senior elders in Nunavut, the indigenous run government of the Eastern Arctic, gave me the name Achiargaluk, which means very handy when there's trouble. It's like a Swiss Army knife. So that became my Inuktitut name.
Awesome. I mean, that's amazing. I mean, thank you much for sharing that. I think your Inuit name, Achi Aguluk, as you said, it really speaks volumes about the deep trust you built, and again, showed all of us where you could take your life and your practice this way. And that actually brings us to another powerful aspect of your story. But before we continue our conversation, let me remind all of you there that's coming, please let us know who you are, where you're dialing from, your name in the chat. Let us know, because we know we are there. We want our guests to know. And again, if you have questions to Barry during the conversation, make sure you write it down, because we would love to ask your question to Barry. So don't be shy. There's no stupid question. You're always welcoming your question. Again, we are here with Barry Appleton talking about Beyond Boundaries, an international lawyer quest for inclusive justice. But now, let's continue our conversation. After all, leadership often comes with personal challenges that shape our perspective and our approach. David.
Thank you so much, Itzik, and thank you, Barry. I love that name, Achi Argluk. I'm not going to sure that I'm going to get it exactly pronounced correctly, but it actually speaks to who I know you as somebody who I would reach out to within the international law section if there was a problem that needed solving, or a new idea or a different perspective. And so it's really interesting that you're clearly the same person, both in dealing with the Inuit community and in the international law section. But let's talk about the topic that Itzik mentioned at the very beginning, and asked me about in terms of my own personal challenges. But you've built this, incredible legacy while navigating personal physical challenges, ones that I did not know about even before we had our initial conversation to talk about what we would do. And yet it's shaped your practice, shaped who you are. So can you please share with us a little bit about your personal challenges and experiences?
Well, sure, but I mean, so not all disabilities are visible, and I was born unable to walk. I was in casts for 3 years from the hip down. I've had undergone multiple surgeries. I do ongoing therapies every week to address my mobility challenges that just others don't have. But I'm very fortunate because of the work I'm able to do, because of the excellent care of the physician team that works with me, I'm able to pass. I'm able to have a level of mobility that lets me actually use the subway in New York City, which would be very hard otherwise. But just because I'm fortunate doesn't mean, I was able to work through this illness. I was able to work through this for now. But for the grace of God, any day I could switch and I would be in a wheelchair. And I recognize that. But I realize that your passion has to meet self-awareness. And that gives me a lot of empathy for non-visible disabilities, because that shapes my legal voice, my persistence, my sense of what we need to do. That resilience shapes inclusive legal practice. And I've been very, very focused on that. It makes me a bit of an agent provocateur because I don't like being enclosed, because I was enclosed in cast for so long. And I don't love the idea that may happen again. But so many people overcome challenges. I'm lucky. My challenges were overcomable, or at least accessible. But so many people have tougher, more difficult challenges. And what are we doing to make the world more accessible for them? What are we doing to make it so that we have increasing our diversity, increasing that access? And so, can you love what you do when it's hard, right? The answer, I think, is yes, but especially when your work helps others to be seen. So I always make a point of doing what I can to enhance the accessibility for those that will have different types of challenges. And I think about it because it starts by thinking about it. And the more able-bodied you are, the more you need to think about it, because you're the people that can do the best. I'm lucky I was able to pass and I'm able to function, but that could change. And I need to use that opportunity I've built to make it easier for others that have more substantial difficulties, where I can make their lives better. And so that's my focus.
Well, before we get to the attention switch moment, and I'll remind everybody, if you've got a question, feel free to put it in and we'll be able to ask it. But Barry, you've mentioned focusing on others, but at the same time, you've personally gone through an experience, I understand, and if you can share it with us, I'd appreciate it, that highlighted that sometimes you also need to take care of yourself, and that if you don't do that, you won't be there for the others. Can you share what that experience was and a little bit how you've learned from it?
Well, recently I was in the middle of a very large international arbitration, and we were pushing a big hearing into a short space, and I pushed myself beyond the physical capacity of where my body could be. And in fact, the doctors told me that I could have actually ended up killing myself out of this without realizing it, because if you don't watch what you do, and if I had made some small changes in the way that the arbitration was done, if we had added some more space in between at lunchtime, and I brought some equipment in to be able to help me, but we didn't really realize we needed it. And so the signals weren't there until it built up and it was overwhelming.
Mm.
And they told me that had I gone into the hospital, this was in Washington, D.C., had I gone into the hospital, they probably would have kept me there for 5 days.
Wow.
And so, I was fortunate. We just caught it just before it became unreachable. But I had to learn a lot because I don't like barriers. I've been fighting barriers. If you think about it, if you've lived constraints, you want to be free. I'm surprised I don't live in Montana or in Wyoming with a big sky, because you have that sense. And my law is about opening up opportunities, that big sky, because I've used that to translate into the type of empowerment that international law can do, and the focus on the rule of law. But it's because of those personal experiences that shape me, even as a young child and along my life. They're consistent. And that resilience is the core to what makes me work. And so this time I got it wrong. Thankfully, other people around me helped me before it was too late. And I'm very thankful to them. And I'm a little bit smarter now, because I don't like limits, but sometimes you have to accept them.
Thank you for making yourself vulnerable and sharing that story with us. So Itzik, back to you.
Yes, I want to say at first it's amazing your experience really truly exemplify, I think, how personal challenges can become a source for strength and empathy. And I hope everybody learning from that. But speaking of strength through community, again, leads us perfectly to our next segment. Again, but before that, again, I want to remind those of you with us, we're still live with Barry Appleton speaking on Beyond Boundaries, an international lawyer quest for inclusive justice. So stay with us. We didn't finish. Don't leave us alone, because we would like to share more with you. And again, we are glad for those of you still sticking around, but thank you for that to be here. And please feel free to type your question again in the chat under, because we would like to ask your question to Barry. And I think something coming in, we'll check in a second. But we come to our attention switch moment, a good opportunity to give attention to the people who deserve it within the ABA International Law Section Global Community. So as we asked you in advance, Barry, and again, excuse for all our community, we did ask Barry to give us 2 or 3 names of people he want to thank within the ABA International Community. I know you can thank many, many more, but we excuse ourselves for just choosing 2 or 3. So, Barry, who are these 2 or 3 and why?
It was tough. It was really tough. I had to think about it because there's so many people that have been there for me. But I've got 3 names, and I'll explain to you why. The first is Ronald Betauer. Ronald is the happy warrior of international law, both at the ABA and the American Society of International Law. If there's a problem, he's your guy. He's the Achialakachuk of the ABA, okay? Because in the Arctic, if you don't innovate, you're going to die if you don't figure it out. And Ron has done that so many times in so many ways. So I have to say thank you to Ron. Second, it's Ed Mullins, because Ed Mullins opened the door to me. He got a focus on community building. He's one of our section officers. He's incoming vice chair. And if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have taken those opportunities. I would have spent a little bit of time, and I would have probably gone elsewhere. And he convinced me that this was the right community where you could engage and be able to talk to people and understand what was going on. And boy, was he right. And then the third is a younger mentor, Chris Campbell. And Chris Campbell, he reminds me all the time of the benefits of being open-minded and innovative and the unyielding power of community. I mean, he's a brilliant guy in so many different ways, but it's that sense of community and decency that he uses to deal with innovation. And I spend a lot of my time dealing with digital innovation and innovation governance. And it's because of these ideas I got from him. So to each of these 3, thank you so much, because the ABA has helped me fostering meaningful human and legal connections. And mentorship here has really built my pathway. And so I really want to thank them for what they did.
Awesome. A big shout to Ron, Ed, and Chris, as Barry said. So hopefully you listen to it, if not, or the replay, and you're going to approach the Barry because you deserve the thanks he told you. And by the way, we have here a LinkedIn user, so I do not know the name. Sorry for that, but I was prepared to take the risk. They said, great advice. Thank you, Barry. So I think based on what you just shared with us, Barry, and here's a question as well. Thanks for sharing, Professor Appleton, Mr. Amiel, Mr. Schwarz. A question I have is that what advice would you share to young lawyers trying to get in to the international arbitration sphere? Thank you. So anything you want to share in short, Ben?
Short answer. Join the ABA, come network. If you want to catch fish, as my friends taught me in the Arctic, go to where the fish are. Come to an ABA event, meet people that are doing it, meet people that can help shape your career path, and maybe publish something with the ABA because it's a wonderful opportunity. These are great, simple, achievable ways that you can make a difference in your professional development when you're starting. I wish I had known about that when I started. It would have made my life so much easier.
Oh, right. Excellent advice. Really good advice. It's great advice, not just because that's what I share as well, but it's really great advice.
Thank you, Barry, for sticking to our script. So thank you very much.
Exactly.
But Barry, thank you very much for sharing your remarkable journey, insight, and humanity with us. You know, your example really encouraged us to blend ambition with adaptability, to really seek connections across culture, and really to lead with empathy. I think that's something comes across every time we speak to you, while never losing sight of our own needs. Your story really is a blueprint for, and I encourage all of you watching it again, also in replay, a blueprint for meaningful resilience and a compassionate legal career. So thank you very, very, very much for reminding us that the very best lawyer are those who build bridges, not just between people, but between strength and struggles, ambition and empathy, and all the rest. So, and I see there's another comment from Jean Yoon Park, so allow me to sneak it in as well. Here you go. So she said, hello, my name is Christine Park, joining in discussion from New York. Thank you all for this amazing, encouraging talk. As someone who relates to the struggle of pushing boundaries and facing limits, I'd like to pose the following question. What strategies do you employ to maintain a healthy balance between your well-being, work demands, and personal life?
Well, the answer is learn from failure, because I didn't get that right. And so it's not that there's a formula. It's that you try what you can, but you got to learn. You learn more from the things that you don't know, from the people that disagree with you, or from the events that don't go your way. If you chalk up, there's a failure, there's an obstacle, and you don't learn from it, you're missing an opportunity. And I have used that, and that's made a big difference, because otherwise you can't get a balance. I have a much better balance now than I did before. And so I'm glad I didn't die. I really am. So is my family. But I can tell you, I learned more from that than I did from anything else in that case.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Barry. I hope Christine answer your question. I don't see any other question coming in. So I think for now, we want to thank you, Barry. This, of course, if you have questions when you watch the replay, you can always write the question under the video, because we will pose the question to Barry, and I'm sure he will approach you even privately to answer it. So don't be embarrassed. Even if you watch the replay, do so. But now we want to thank you, Barry. It has been really great honor to have you here, and you're a true source of inspiration, as much as we can get you from almost half an hour. But thank you very, very much for being here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is a really wonderful conversation. And I've told you things I've never told anybody. So really special.
Thank you so for that, Barry. We'll see you very soon again. And don't leave us, because we're going to speak now behind Barry's back, as we always do, David and myself. So, David, what is your take out of this conversation?
Oh, the fact that Barry is so personable, and now it's understandable why I feel that sense of connection, because he just naturally is conveying his own, the empathy that he has because of the struggles that he's faced. And so I feel that when I'm in conversation with him, and as a result, I want to share with him, I want to work with him, et cetera, et cetera. I just found that, explanation for sort of the feelings that I naturally have with him. It was extraordinarily helpful for me understanding both Barry, but also the superpowers that we all have by, to paraphrase your book title, giving the attention switch by sort of giving that empathy and sharing that perspective that all of a sudden we can do. So that's the biggest of them all. But the little ones of making sure that you are looking for the open doors and finding those open doors and opportunities when they come your way, and then finally being willing to take risks and recognizing that some of the most important lessons that we learn are from our failures, as was noted at the end. Those are the three big ones that I'm taking away from today. How about you, Itzik?
Yes, I mean, I'll be honest with you, David. I was struggling because when we prepared, when I had so many, and I know we have very limited time. So it's actually to choose the one I think will be standing out and really reflect what Barry told us. Because Barry Journey really offers invaluable lessons for legal professionals at every stage. And so I want to crystallize my key takeaway. And again, there are more if you listen carefully what he said with us today. And I will encourage each one of you to listen to find those diamonds. But here they are. First, I think strategic vision. Know your destination, but remain flexible about the path. You shown Barry shown us that successful legal career is not a straight line. It's about setting ambitious goals while staying open to the new opportunities and the unexpected challenges that inevitably arise along your way. And your ability to pivot, whether from diplomacy to law or private practice to public service, demonstrate really the importance of adaptability in today's profession. So I think that's number one. Number two is cultural competencies. Embrace the opportunities to understand different perspectives. Very deep engagement with indigenous communities and the Intuitive Art Foundation is a powerful reminder that great lawyers are also bridge builders. By actively seeking out and appreciating diverse cultures, we not only serve our client better, but also broaden our own worldviews, making us more effective advocates and actually human beings. And number three is the personal growth, transforming challenges into sources of strength and understanding. Through your openness about overcoming physical obstacles, Barry exemplify how vulnerability can lead to great empathy and resilience. Rather than letting challenges limit you, like many people that I know are, because a lot of them are my mentees, you should turn them into a unique toolkit for helping others and advocating for wider inclusion in the legal field. After it is about inclusion. Number four, David, is community building. You mentioned, but I want to mention again the cultivating meaningful relationship across culture, across disciplines. Again, Barry's ability to foster rapport with clients, with students, with communities underscores how essential it is to invest in relationships. Thing that I probably promote all the time, but the legal profession isn't just about solitary achievement. It's about collaborative progress and mutual support. So wake up there who think it's all about solicitation. You can do nothing in life without the help of other people. And number five is balancing leadership, serving other while maintaining your self-awareness. We mentioned several times in this episode, perhaps most importantly, Barry's story illustrates that to be truly effective, lawyers must balance service with self-care. By recognizing our own needs alongside those of our clients and our communities, we ensure long-term impact and personal sustainability. So to our listeners of today, reflect on how these lessons can inform your own path. Embrace your challenges. Reach out to new communities and always remember to take care of yourself as you strive to serve others. Because if you're gone, guess what? You cannot serve anybody else. So now, friends, is take that to the action and implement what you learn in this lesson. As I promised, it's so much more. We just shortened to you the cherries, what we thought. But we've been here with Barry Appleton. He's a top international trade lawyer and a special member of the supporter of the ABA International Law Section. And just as Barry bridges cultures through art and law, I want to thank you, David, for helping me bridge experiences through conversation and curiosity, making complex legal journey, as you always go, accessible and inspiring for our audience. So thank you very much for being not just a co-host, David, but a true curator of life wisdom. So thank you very, very much for that.
Oh, and thank you so much, Itzik. It's always a pleasure to be on with you. It's amazing what we learn and the fact that we get these stories that really nobody else can hear and nobody else knows about until we have these interviews. And I'm really excited. It's hard to believe, but next month already, we've got scheduled the president of the American Bar Association. And so that's really exciting, and looking forward to continuing our series. We're already begun planning for next ABA year. So, if you're enjoying this series, please be sure to check in on a monthly basis. We look forward to sharing more with you. And so it's just a pleasure to be on and in conversation with you, and a pleasure to work with you. So it's so enjoyable.
Thank you, David. And thank David. I want to thank each one of you who joined us today. And thank you for staying till the end. And again, if you think your story worth spreading, you want to approach us. Let us know. We would love to interview you. So let us know who you are. And I think it will be a great opportunity to let more people know about your story, your uniqueness, and why you should stand out of the crowd. Make sure to join our next episode and share this episode with anyone who might need these lessons today. Until next time, keep standing out and standing up for what really matters. See everyone next standout episode, and bye from David and myself. Thank you very much, everybody.